Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us get our show to others and help us reach our next milestone. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with Courtney Turich. Courtney is a medtech sales executive, a Shark Tank entrepreneur, and podcast host. She builds what doesn't exist yet and help others realize they can too. She is the VP of Sales at Cooler Heads Care, helping cancer patients retain their dignity and emotional well-being through scalp cooling innovation. She's passionate about turning ideas into impact and people into powerhouses. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic intro, Enrique. I am beyond honored to be here with you today.
Well, we are so happy to have you on the show. And folks, we will be speaking about stop waiting for permission, how bold leaders turn ideas into impact. But before we get into that conversation, Courtney, tell us a little bit about you that maybe the audience may not know.
So I am an individual who loves to bet on big ideas, Enrique. You know, I classify myself as a risk taker, a change agent, and somebody who really likes to push boundaries, as well as showing strength through vulnerability through my leadership style. I've been in the medtech space for over 20 years now. As you mentioned, I did a short stint where I backed away, created a product that went on Shark Tank. I did a deal with Mark Cuban, Lori Grenier, and then realized, truth be told, I wasn't going to be a millionaire off my Shark Tank idea. And that's what brought me back into medtech. And I told myself one thing, Enrique, that I would only work for startups at that point. And I've stayed true to my core because that's what lights me up inside. I love wearing multiple hats. I love, doing every role possible to see an idea come to life.
I love that. And I agree with you about the startup. There is something so exciting about that stage in a company's life. I too love to just interject and invest in that timeline of a company's trajectory. Now, you've built things that didn't exist yet and turned ideas into real world impact. What mindset shift does a leader need to make to move from simply having ideas to actually executing bold innovation?
I think it's something so simple, Enrique, and so many people have big ideas. But what sets those people with ideas from the leaders who actually execute is one thing, and that is taking action. One of the most simple things you can do in this world is if you have an idea, it's not going to create itself. You've got to start taking the steps to make it happen. It won't happen overnight. And it takes a lot of small steps to get to that big step. But that's true with all aspects of life.
That is so true. And from a military background, I know that taking the step to go and just do it is where the actions, and the effect and the overall accomplishments happen from. You can't do it unless you actually start it. So I love that. Now, many leaders, they hesitate when they can't see the full path ahead.
Right.
And in your journey from medtech sales to entrepreneurship and Shark Tank, how have you learned to move forward confidently when the outcome isn't guaranteed?
I really believe it has to do with me being a risk taker and change agent at heart and just naturally, Enrique, because reality is when you have an idea, so many people, and even in business, people get paralysis by analysis, right? You think you have to have it perfect. There is no perfect solution. There is no perfect formula. There is no perfect equation to this idea you have. You're going to fumble. You're going to fail. You're going to go back to the drawing board. But the only way to do that is to start taking those steps, taking that action towards that bigger vision that you have, whether it's the idea, whether it's a new team you're building or a new company you're striving for. It's those little things. You just gotta do it. Just do it.
Yes, and I believe that that's really where you will ever see anything occur. Now, you often talk about helping people realize they can build what doesn't exist yet. What practices or habits can leaders develop to unlock their own creativity and ingenuity inside organizations that may, let's say, resist change?
Good question. A lot of, especially in bigger corporations, it's easy to fall within the box of what everybody is consistently and constantly doing. What you have to do is push the boundaries. If you have an idea, speak up. And that's where a lot of people fall short, is actually sharing their voice for those ideas. So, how do you create a culture that embraces people speaking up, bringing ideas to the forefront? And that really goes back to my vision of being vulnerable as a leader. I want to hear everybody's voice. I want to call people to the forefront so they can share. They don't feel bad for speaking up. They don't feel bad for giving an idea, because in reality, we've all heard it. There's no bad idea. And if you can really embrace that philosophy, there's no bad idea, that's when the little light bulb moments come on. It's also, if you have an idea, pick up the phone and start calling people who have done it before. Lean into your network, start asking questions. When we were creating Monkey Map for Shark Tank, I'll never forget just, thinking about what would it take to create this idea? What components would we need to create this idea? Okay, let's start calling those manufacturers, asking them questions about, oh, what type of fabric should we use? Do you offer this fabric? Lots of people will turn the phone off. Some people won't talk to you, but you will find people who are happy to help you along the journey.
Yes, the network and the community around you is so important, especially at the ideation phase of
Yes.
anything, right? And we often miss the fact that, there are people out there that can help us. And
Yes.
I think it's just the go getter type of attitude that kind of just, we're going, and you kind of dismiss those that can help you. But especially when you're trying to develop the idea, it's best to do exactly what you just said. Now, I do want to caveat, especially when sharing ideas in groups, because I've seen this
Yes.
backfire for some people where they bring this idea and everybody's like, oh, I don't think it'll work. And then in the next meeting, Joe or Susie is taking charge on your idea. And you're like, what happened here?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you have to be careful how you release these things. Be strategic. I mean, don't be a hoarder if it's going to help a group effort or your company or whatever, but be strategic in sharing and implementing these where you still get the idea out there. You can position yourself to be the head of the a project or so, and still retain the autonomy of your idea, but not, just keep it because, you're afraid that it may be taken. But it does happen.
That is a great point, Enrique. And I remember at Monkey Mats, we started to have people sign NDAs, and I thought it was ridiculous. But you never know. You've got to make sure that you're checking your boxes and that your idea doesn't get taken.
Absolutely. Now, at Cooler Heads Care, the work you're doing is about much more than technology. It's about dignity, emotional well being for cancer patients. How does anchoring innovation and purpose change the way leaders think about building solutions?
Yeah, what a great question. I feel very honored that I get to be part of this company. And I didn't invent the product, but our founder and CEO did. Her name is Kate Dilligan, and we're here because she's a cancer survivor. She went through the chemotherapy journey, also through cold capping, which is a different form of scalp cooling. While she walked away, keeping some of her hair, she also walked away feeling defeated by the process. And that was the light bulb moment of there's got to be an easier way. And I commend her for everything that she went through to get this product FDA cleared. It is not an easy task to get anything through the FDA process. But when I got brought into this company early in the early stages, so I was so fortunate to be part of Cooler Heads before we commercialized. So before we sold into the first customer, before we treated our first patient, and I will tell you, when I started to hear women and men, I should also say men, their journey about losing their hair during chemotherapy, I learned really quickly that it was so much more than about vanity. And shame on me, Enrique. I initially, when I heard of the technology, I didn't even think about the mental impact that hair loss has on so many patients. But the reality is, when you give people the ability to maintain a sense of self, maintain their identity, to be able to go out in public and not be stared at, that's powerful. And no one wants to go to the grocery store and be the person where someone's looking at them and thinking, oh, I feel bad for them. I hope they're okay. So now that I get to be part of this company at its infancy and to see what we've grown into several years later, the way our team has grown, the way our accounts have grown, the number of patients we've treated, now that's power. It's passion, purpose, and we're making a real difference. So if you can't tell, I'm extremely energized by being part of this company from the ground up for so many reasons. It's really been a highlight for me professionally.
And when you can be part of someone's happiness, especially at this stage in life where they're dealing with a potentially mortal illness, and help them navigate every day, because yeah, just simply like men that lose their hair or women that lose their hair by other means, it's a challenge, right?
Yeah,
You've
right,
grown accustomed to a certain look, and then all of a sudden after 20, 30, 40 years, it's different, right? And so
right.
there is a mental battle that is fought for, and I think it's for identity, right? Who
Yes,
am I without this? You know, some of us are like, hey, whatever, it comes and goes, right? But
right.
and even with that attitude, I'll tell you, there's still some struggles. There is a challenge there, and I'm glad that you guys are helping cancer patients navigate that. It's such
Yeah,
a beautiful thing. Now, there's leaders that are stuck in safety, right behind the safety wall of ideas, and just like don't share it. For leaders listening who feel stuck in safe routines, what would you say to challenge them to take that bold step to build something new, to lead differently, or pursue an idea they've been sitting on?
yeah. Another great question, Enrique. And I lean into the word leadership. Your goal as a leader is to push status quo. It is not to be average. It is not to be normal. You're there to be the bold one, to stand up for a vision, to stand up for your team, to stand up for your people, to really push boundaries. And if you're not sharing that voice, think about it. This is your chance in life, not only for yourself, but for everyone else that you're representing to be bold. You got into that role for a reason. It didn't happen overnight. And if you can just be confident and can have conviction in that vision that you have, speak up, be yourself, because people will see it. If you continue to try to conform, you don't stand out. You're not going to be different. And are you a real leader? Think about that. You are a leader for a reason. You were given a voice for a reason. You were put in that role for a reason. So stand up and be the person you're meant to be in that position?
Yeah, very powerful question. And as he was saying all of that, I was thinking of a leader as a boat. You're either a boat out to sea or you're that rope tying that boat to the pier. Either way,
Right.
right? And
That
so,
is great. I love that analogy.
and you have to ask yourself that question every day as a leader. And I hope you do, because it will keep you on the straight and narrow and leading, right, like you were supposed to. Now, thank you for all that you've shared, Courtney. And I know that you're busy with the company and in executing your position there, but what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer or the listener follow you and support you?
Sure. I'm heavily on LinkedIn, so you can absolutely find me there. DM, connect with me. It's Courtney Turich. I do have a website, thecourtneyturich.com. My podcast is on pause for the moment as I'm revamping a new strategy. But I'm here, happy to chat with your audience. If you reach out, I'm very responsive, and I'm very honored to be here, Murky.
Well, we're happy to have you, like I mentioned earlier. And folks, Courtney is a fellow outlier with me, and we just love that community, but love what you're doing, love what you are helping this company do on a day to day basis. It's a very noble cause, other than a business, right? And that's what I
Right.
love about it. Folks, thank you for being with us. And today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends magazine, The Outlier Project, Bone Frog Coffee, Castle and Compass Adventures, Ascend Meditations, Chop AI, Boomcaster, and Superpass. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. And tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.